What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? Knew a rich kid whose parents bought a car for, and he treated it like absolute garbage. Purposely driving it really hard and generally abusing it, confident in the notion that his parents would buy him the one he wanted after he destroyed the one they got him. Well, they didn't buy him another one, ever. He rode the city bus and bummed rides off of friends after that. He was the most entitled ducker I'd ever met. If he was over at your house, he would just help himself to whatever was in the fridge, like it was some sort of paid buffet. I saw Justin Bieber throw a sheet fit and end up not getting what he wanted. We have quarterly team building exercises at my company, where you basically go and play minigolf or some other activity capped at $25 person. Sometime between 2009 and 2011. I really can't remember exactly. My group just decided to go for a fancy lunch in downtown Portland. After lunch we took one of our coworkers to the semi-famous Nike store, which was a couple of blocks away, and that was the day Justin Bieber happened to show up. When he and his entourage arrived, he said something somewhat loudly along the lines of, "You're going to have to leave for a bit cause I'm here to do some shopping," and some of his people acted like they were going to try and politely force the already present customers out of the store so Bieber could shop alone. But the Nike employees even more politely told him that was not possible. At that point Bieber lost it. I mean, he threw a total tantrum because they wouldn't shut down the store for him. The tantrum didn't work and he and his folks left in a huff. That's really my only celebrity in the wild encounter, and it's freaking lame. This kid. Norwich Bulletin. Com article 20,071,005 News 310,059,851. He was a 17-year-old in my dad's hometown that was known for driving fast and being an all-around asshole on the road. He had multiple speeding tickets and a DUI on record. At 17. The DUI incident was actually a car crash that totaled his car and led to him having his jaw wired shut. So what do his parents do? They give him his license back and buy him a brand new car, which I'm pretty sure was a WRX, which crashed into a utility truck, killing himself, his sister and her friend, while doing almost twice the speed limit on a residential road. Spoiled rich kid showed up to school in a $325,000 sports car. He was showing off, lost control of the car, and drove it through a brick wall and totaled it. Dad buys a rich kid a Mercedes. It was pinkish, salmon colored, so the kid beached about it. Dad took two away, sold it, and never bought him another car. Rich brat had to buy his own. Saw a college guy with a ridiculously expensive car. Can't remember the model. Rear-end this woman who drove an absolute beater. Her car was definitely totaled and his wasn't looking that hot either. He got out and started screaming at this woman. She was in tears. He kept telling her that she was going to pay for this. When the cops came, I saw each of them give their statements. After that, me and like 10 people came forward and gave our witness statements. It sounded like each and every one of us put complete fault on him, which was the truth. When the cops went back to him, I saw his face just sink. He probably told them it was her fault and just found out that two handfuls of people just confirmed that he's full of shit. I've never seen that many witnesses stick around for a simple traffic accident. I think the other people felt the same way I did. That kid was a douche and should be punished for what he did. One of my college roommates was very rich growing up. I didn't realize just how rich until I had to explain to her what a coupon was in very extensive detail. On multiple occasions she bragged that she wasn't even interested in her major, philosophy, or college in general, but she was at uni because her parents were requiring her to get a degree, any degree, in order to get access to her trust fund. I don't remember ever seeing her go to class, and she eventually got expelled sophomore year over academic dishonesty. I guess this was the last straw for her parents, because they cut her off pretty soon after that. This actually served as a wake-up call. She somehow managed to get a public health degree at a different school in spite of the academic dishonesty listed on her transcript. She's doing pretty well for herself these days. We've kept in touch, and last we talked she was considering grad school. Local business owner puts son through college and more. When kid graduates with multiple degrees, dad decides to retire and turn over business to son. Son brings college cronies on board, has management all wear white cowboy hats and drive white pickups, begins revamping business. Dad comes out of retirement pronto, gets rid of son and cronies. Years later bankrolls son's run for state rep. The son lost. Dad dies and leaves business to daughter. Here's a switch. Highly successful local doctor politician expects son to attend medical school and become doctor. Son opts out, gets job with new company called Costco, pumping gas. He's been with that company ever since. Just his regular pay raises and bonus checks give him a good life. He just didn't want the high stress life his dad had. About 10 years ago I was having a pint with a friend of mine. His family sheet gold I swear. I mentioned I was struggling with rent and bills while in college and he just said get your mum to pay for it then mate. She's disabled and we've never had real money. He instantly realized what he said and did feel bad about it. I think it was the first time he really understood that not everyone has their parents to lean on financially. Somewhat distant relative spent all of his university years and 20s partying hard with the /100-120k allowance his rich company owning father gave him each year. He'd travel the world each year going to Bali, Thailand, Europe, every year Oktoberfest, just rampaging. At 32 or so he decided to settle an upscale ski resort area of the US and open a business with his hot gold digger fiancée. When he went to transfer his money to his US bank account he noticed it only came to a few $1,000s. He angrily asked the bank worker why she hadn't transferred the entire amount only to be told that that was the entire amount. His father had cut him off without saying anything and he just hadn't noticed. Absolute flatline. While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window and one proceeded to tell me about a great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday, with no adult in the party, just a bunch of teenage girls out in Vegas, where none of them could do anything because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They start yelling and screaming at me. I calmly call security and security tells them they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try to find a hotel off the strip that will take them in without being 21. The anger turns to tears. The security guard is unmoved. Rich scummy injury lawyer's kid was in my class in HS. Goes to college, mid-sized school in the Midwest, and gets blasted drunk. Parents bought him and his friends alcohol since freshman year so nothing new, and Rat says he has to write him up for alcohol in the dorms. Punches Taraz, then gets cops called on him and knocks a cop's tooth out. Long story short his parents have to drive back 6 to 7 hours after one day to get him, and he's not even allowed to leave the state until his hearing. Last I heard he's working at a fast food establishment. Freshman year of college. The guy across the hall from me is a spoiled rich kid from a big southern city. Old money clearly coming out his ass. A couple weeks into the second semester he and a buddy found a checkbook on the sidewalk. Stupid duckers decided to write themselves a check and cash it in the bank that the account is in. The teller immediately called the cops and they both got arrested. We talked the night he got arrested and he laughed and said his dad would take care of it and everything would be fine. That weekend we met his dad as they moved everything out of the dorms since his dumbass got expelled. Guess daddy didn't take care of it. Oh, I have one. I used to work at Starbucks and there was a girl that was just newly hired and in training. Mind you she was 20 years old and her parents made her get a job. She grew up in a very wealthy family. On her first or second day, I had instructed her to do the dishes to help catch us up for closing. She looked at me with these lost eyes and told me she doesn't know how. Apparently she grew up with housemaids and literally has never cleaned a dish in her entire life. I had to teach her step by step how to clean a dish. I knew one who apparently couldn't fathom how people live on a budget. We used to hang out a lot at her insistence, but she liked to eat at expensive places, whereas I'd have no issue having my meals somewhere cheaper. However, she kept pouting and insisting I stay. I said I couldn't, unless she wanted to spot me. She didn't. I then walked her through the math and showed her that the cost of my meals with her every day totaled my entire wage for the month. She didn't stop pouting, but from then on I could eat by myself in peace. In a country with high alcohol taxation, rich kids enter pub, like 10 to 12 of them, throw card at bartender, demanding shots. What would y'all like? Whatever lol. Dad is paying LMAO. Bartender pours double J. W. Blues for all the brats and some randoms that they treated. Brat with card had tears in his eyes when the tab came in. Dad's going to kill me. I did enjoy the free whiskey though. My best moment was when I got hired by a pair of Woodside, California parents to transition their horrible 18-year-old into the realities of real life, something that evaded both of them. My first action was to take away his platinum, limitless, credit cards. He threw a tantrum that lasted several days. Where am I going to get money? Get a job. My parents will fire you. They didn't. When he realized that boundaries and budgets had been set in stone, and that he not only had to pay the bills, the rent, but taxes too, he headed straight to college to wait out the next 4 years. He is still a little jerk, but at least he has a job and an education now. A kid from my high school came from a well-known family that was very involved in politics. He slacked off in school and was mostly a condescending ass 4 years. After graduation, he didn't really do anything, but eventually decided to run for office as he had the same name as his father. He won easily because people didn't realize it was the kid. As a state rep, he posted on Facebook about enjoying his women battered rather than plain, and asking to join the Black Caucus because he liked hip hop. He also dropped a loaded gun on the floor in the middle of a session after fighting for the right to carry a gun in the state, housed as a responsible gun owner. He kept getting elected despite these issues because his family was well connected and he had a dedicated following from some political groups. After 6 years in office, he gets busted for soliciting sex from a minor over the internet. When they arrest him for that, they also discover he's been dealing drugs. The worst part is that his family is actually super nice and genuinely made the community a better place, but now they have to deal with all the issues from him. He was an apple that fell very far from the tree. Open bracket. I went to school with a kid who always had a new fancy car or truck because his dad owned one of the biggest construction companies in the area. This kid was a major douche and double or triple parked his big trucks all the time. Once he got some sort of fast fancy car and went over 110 miles per hour and was getting chased by state police. He had friends in the car that were telling him to stop and slow down, but he wouldn't. I believe he was also drunk. But he ended up crashing into a business doing a ton of damage. He got hit with 3 to 4 felonies. Driving over 100 miles per hour is a crime in most states, and he got multiple kidnapping charges because the passengers were freaking out. Dude never came back to school, and I have no clue what he's doing now. Edit. To clarify, it was on normal street roads, not the freeway highway. Edit 2. My bad, not a felony for driving fast, but for the attempted kidnapping. I had a roommate my freshman year of college that came from an incredibly rich oil family from the Middle East. I remember him having the hardest time adjusting to not having someone else prepare him food. I remember waking up one morning and going to the kitchen and seeing him try to eat eggs and toast he had just prepared himself. He asked me how I normally prepare fried eggs because his tasted really crunchy. Turns out he had just cracked the egg hole into the pan and prepared it shell and all. I couldn't stop laughing, but felt really bad for the dude. No joke here. Back in high school, 90s, this kid got a brand new Chevy Camaro. I had an old ass 80s Pontiac Phoenix that had the straight 6. It was by far not a racing car, but this tool was just looking to brag at what he got compared to the busted cars we got. About 2 days later, while we were waiting at a stoplight, this idiot tries to race us as I'm in my car, and I pull up with my friends. He starts by revving it really loud and tries to do a burnout. Mind you, the light was red and the roads were not wet, so he managed to get a tiny burnout going, some smoke and whatnot. When his tires did catch traction, he went barreling into the intersection and smashed the car of the wife of one of the very few cops in my small city. Needless to say, that didn't work out for him very well. He used to be a counselor at a pretty nice summer camp, and a lot of the kids that went there came from families that were rich enough to own a lake house on a very nice lake. Average price would be $2-3 million for a second home. Most of the rich kids were pretty nice honestly, but I remember one kid who was the son of some retired NBA player who tried to use his status as a way of winning at Blob Wars. For people who don't know, a blob is basically a giant bag of air that sits in the water and you can jump on one end and send someone flying off the other. Yautu. Bet NRYU sick MA. T equals 38. Blob Wars was where you would climb onto the blob and try to knock other people in. So the kid was popular and he would form an alliance with other kids, so they'd end up getting knocked off before him. I watched for a while and then hopped on, got the usual hey, let's form an alliance thing from him and said nope. He went on to say his dad was rich and paid a lot to send him there, so I got to tell him being thrown off the blob in Blob Wars was part of the camp experience. He ended up being pretty relaxed after a couple days and having fun. Was an enjoyable gig. There was a kid in my school class who was a trust fund baby and he acted like it. He was picking on people one day just talking unnecessary shit and he called a girl a cow. She was overweight. He then got punched by a special education kid in class. And then when he contemplated retaliating against the special education kid, he then got punched by another student who was not special needs. He did not contemplating punching him. Not a person, but a whole community. We live in a very rich school system with loads of big money parents and they're cocky do you know my dad kids. I'm one of the few who isn't. Now, our baseball team has a team A and a team B, one which plays in an upper league and one that plays in a lower league. Me and a few of my friends, who had all played since we were little, played team B, like we always do. But this year, our A team was filled with the richest brats, all of whom had $700 equipment and bragged about how good they were. We won our league, and Team A placed in the bottom of this. Now, to feel good about themselves, at least I assume, they scheduled an exhibition match with us. We got badly trashy talked during the whole pregame about how all of our regular metal bats didn't even compare to their beautiful wooden ones with their names carved in annas, everything like that. Our coach told us not to hold back. We didn't. Fast forward 4 innings, and it's a forfeit from their coach, with a score of 13-0. They've gotten 2 people on base, but other than that, it's been shootout pitching from my brother. I'm his catcher. We had stellar batting all around, and boy, did we feel good about that retribution. Edit. My most liked post is about how I crushed some rich trashy talkers. Satisfying. I knew a kid in high school whose parents were loaded. When he got his driver's license they bought him a $70,000 Mercedes. Within a month or 2 he totaled the car while driving drunk. Parents pulled strings to get him off the full weight of the DUI. Oh, and they bought him another $70,000 Mercedes. He overdosed on a sheet load of drugs and booze when he was 23. He's dead.